Yo, welcome to Weird Growth, the podcast where we hear about the strange and often unpredictable journey that founders take. The conversation doesn't end here. If you want to stay one step ahead and unlock access to exclusive insights, thought-provoking summaries of our latest episodes, and a curated collection of valuable resources from across the web, don't miss out on the Ammo Marketing monthly newsletter. Please subscribe to our newsletter by the link in the description. This episode, we have a returning guest, Gabe Alves, who is the CTO of EXTAG and also the founder of Track My Subs, which has now been acquired, was on Weird Growth episode 2 back in December 2019. So a lot has changed since then, both in the world and with Gabe, and so it's really exciting to have him back on Weird Growth to give us an update on what he's been up to and learn what's happened over the past 4 or so years. A bit of background, EXTAG was originally built for providing access to information for valves in the oil and gas, mining and power industries, but they've adapted their software since to fit a whole range of other things and work with customers around the world, and it continues to evolve, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that today. So Gabe, welcome back to Weird Growth. Thank you so much for being here again, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me back.
I'm really looking forward to this. This is cool now that Weird Growth's been running for 4+ years, where we can start following people's journey over time, and that's really what it's all about, is all those strange things that happen in people's entrepreneurial journeys. So thank you, mate. Could you please introduce yourself and how you came to do what you do?
Oh gosh. So my name's Gabe Alves.
Yep.
Thanks very much. How did I come to doing what I'm doing? I think if I go back to I call it my last job. As an IT manager, and I'm not sure if I've spoken to you about it before, but IT manager on a large construction job, a big international company. I think I got to a point in my career where I was thinking, I've ticked this box. If I keep working at this, I can keep climbing that corporate ladder. And it was almost as if, because mentally I'd ticked that box, it no longer held my interest.
Interesting, yeah, okay.
And it was just, okay, I need to do something else now. This is going to just become the day-to-day grind, and I'm just not going to want to be there.
Yep.
So it wasn't something that I was like, overnight, bang, let's do it. But I think I've always wanted to have my own business. And if I think back now, even back to my early 20s, I had an early sort of foray into starting my own business, which just failed absolutely miserably. It ended up being 3 months off work, and I ran out of money and had to get a job, not knowing anything about what to really do. And I think the preceding 20 years of working in corporate actually got me all the skills I needed to actually be successful to run my own business. So it was almost like I had to do that to then do this at the right time, if you know what I mean.
But the fire was always there.
The fire was always there, though.
To be your own boss or to run your own business.
Yeah, definitely. Though, I remember after those 3 months, it's like, I'm done with this. But it crept back in.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the skills that I learnt through working for corporate and all those things about managing people, the challenges of, running a large structure, they really sort of came through. And even now, some of the day-to-day things that come up, I've just got that experience to draw on. Simple things like reading a contract, right?
Yeah.
You've got that wealth of experience to go, I'm fresh out of the box with a new company and no experience going, how do I read a contract?
Yep.
But having all those years experience with a large company with those large legal support teams, just something like that, it's just invaluable.
I think it's a bit of a trope that startup founders tend to be, young, energetic guys in their 20s, and they're the ones who do well. In my experience, it's actually the guys who've had a career, have picked up those skills, but importantly, during that career, they've seen the opportunity of things that can be better in the world. And that's what motivates them to go out and try to change it.
I saw a stat the other day that the most successful startups with the highest ratio are run by founders in their 40s.
Wow.
So I'll take that because I'm in my 40s. But yeah, it makes sense, right?
It does.
Because there's so much sort of knowledge and skills that you acquire just by going through the workforce.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what did that look like for you when you did sort of decide later in your career there to take that leap?
Well, I did it differently to the first time. I didn't sort of say, I've got an idea, let's just quit work, quit revenue, quit money, I can make this work and I'll be fine. I started it on the side.
Yeah.
The side hustle, right?
After work,
all that sort of stuff. And it was not a sort of invented idea of, hey, this will make a good idea for a business. I was actually solving a problem for my wife's business, which, you know, she's a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And she had all these subscriptions that she was trying to keep track of. You know, that's the Track My Subs story.
That's Track My Subs, yeah. So I'm still a customer of Track My Subs actually, and I love it because it does just very light, in a lightweight way, allow you to put all the subscriptions that you have, Spotify, YouTube, Netflix, into one place. It tracks how much you're spending, reminds you when you've got your bills upcoming, and it's just, it is a real pain point for so many people, and you went out and built it.
Yeah, and like it was a wonderful experience. I was never going to retire off it.
Yeah.
But to go through that entire process and just to be able to close it out, it's almost been 2 years now since it was acquired and moved on. To be able to close it out was from beginning to end, it was just over 6 years.
Wow.
And
which is fast in the scheme of things, isn't it, really?
Yeah. And for me, it was that mentally success tick box too, to go, I had an idea in my head. I knew nothing about software. Hired a couple of uni students to then learn all those things about marketing and trying to grow it and grow a business and then an online business and understanding, you know, how does software work and all that stuff. And then to learn about, okay, I want to get rid of this thing. How do I do that? You know, when my passion for it just disappeared.
Yeah.
To go, right, okay, well, how do I move it on? And then learning that whole process of, you know, that acquisition. Like, how do I sell it? How do I find someone who wants to give me money for this thing?
It's amazing, and congratulations on what you did there. It's quite a rare thing, actually, what you achieved. So well done, mate, and it's really cool. And if anyone's interested in learning more about that story, you did a really good talk at Morning Startup when it happened about a year ago, a bit over a year ago.
Yeah, a bit over a year ago, yeah.
We'll put the link in the show notes, but it's really, Gabe was very generous with a deep dive of how that process of selling a business was like and the ups and downs of the roller coaster as well. But now that you've got a bit of distance from that happening, how does that feel? How do you look back on that experience?
I see it as something that set us up for what we're doing now.
Great.
That whole process, and you hear a lot, you know, we're in the startup community anyway, where it's, you know, it's not your first startup, it's going to be the successful one, it's not the second, it's not the third. And it's, I know we all, when we start out, we think, no, it's going to be the first one.
Yeah, I'm going to hit it out of the park first time.
Yeah, this is the killer idea, and, you know, and I'm going to get sold for billions of dollars and never have to work again. But I think that the reality is that you build on it, and the next time you do it, you shortcut so many things because of what you've learnt. It was quite different between between Track My Subs and now EXTAG, is that our customers are very different.
Yeah.
You know, it was a B2C for Track My Subs, straight to consumer, whereas EXTAG is very much B2B. So the whole selling process and our customers are very, very different. But then, you know, having been through that B2C process, we brought things from that into the B2B world that has actually made us so much more successful. So
amazing.
You know, that's been really cool.
Yeah. We'll talk about EXTAG in more depth in a minute. But before we leave the Track My Subs subject, can I ask what was the most successful type of marketing that you did? What was the sort of most successful little tactic or strategy that you used during Track My Subs to acquire customers?
So I remember going through all of them, the AdWords. And,
I remember
Facebook,
speaking to you at the time.
Facebook ads and all those kinds of things. And I think the thing that was the most successful was the community piece. Building a Facebook page.
Community.
Building a group. Engaging with them, asking, you know, it's two-edged, right? When you start asking people what they want, because then you get demands for things that they want you to build. Yeah. Which you can't do them all.
Yeah, big feature creep, yep.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I think building that and survive long enough to be successful. I think we put unrealistic timeframes on everything that we make that, in 12 months we're going to be killing it.
Yep.
But if you push that time frame back and go, I don't need that huge growth. I just need to be around long enough. Because I think most people, when they're choosing something, you know, if it's really brand new, they're a bit hesitant.
Yep.
You know, you've got the early adopters and things like that. But the longer you've been around, the more established you are. And our rankings on Google, I mean, for the last few years, and we still are on the first page whenever you search for track subscriptions, and in so many countries in the world as well. And I'm not going to pretend I did anything special for that.
Yep.
I just got content and I got other people to write content and I just wrote the good things and I didn't try to play the game. And just by being around long enough, Google rewarded us for it. So when all the, they had all those algorithm changes and things like that, which they still do, it just never affected us.
Yep.
Because we just said, well, we're
you
just
weren't trying to game it.
Yeah, we're just trying to do it the right way, not trying to accelerate the system, if you know what I mean.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the greatest growth hack is just doing the grind and being around long enough to be legit.
Successful. Yeah. Because most of them will disappear in a couple of years. And I remember having a spreadsheet of my competitors for Track My Subs.
Yep.
And there was about 25 competitors.
Okay.
And I just had crossed them out as they disappeared. I remember there was a company in Canada, and they had enormous amounts of funding and had a team of 25 people. And I'm like, what the hell are they doing with 25 people? I had a team of 2 or 3, and I just didn't understand what they were doing. But 6 months later, they'd run out of money and they closed up.
Funny that.
So
amazing.
Yep.
Well done, mate. So on to EXTAG. What's the big problem that you're solving with EXTAG?
That's a good question. I know that we ask this for every time we're doing we do a product or a business. What's the product? What's the business? The problem we're solving? We're not really solving something that's kind of earth-shattering.
Mm-hmm.
EXTAG's an asset management system. So we track human activities on equipment.
Yep.
So if you think, I've got a vehicle, I've got to do a pre-start inspection of a vehicle, or I've got to do a service on a piece of equipment, there's software out there that kind of does that. I think the problem we're solving is that the way that we've created our software and the way it works and the way that we engage with the people using it is different. So if you looked at a very high level and said, okay, what's EXTAG doing? You can do a Google and find probably 20 other products that do it.
Sure.
The difference is how we do it.
Okay.
And I think so that's the piece that we do differently. And I guess the problem we're solving is that human engagement piece.
Nice.
To get traction with the software and be able to roll it out successfully.
Yep. I think that's probably one of the big challenges of our time is that we are inundated with, specific SaaS products for every imaginable vertical that you can imagine.
Yep.
And the challenge really is with the change management component of getting people to do things differently in their workflow.
Yep.
And the most successful pieces of software are the ones that feel natural or easy or, don't, actually make your job easier as opposed to being an extra step that gets in the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that what you're saying that is
Definitely.
What you guys have achieved? Yeah.
And that's one of the things that, and there's a number of things and we can go through them, but one of the things that came from Track My Subs was if your customer is a single person, right, and that, I use this all the time, this sort of example, if you download an app on your phone and you can't get it to work within 20 seconds, you don't look for the instruction manual.
Yep.
You delete it and you download a new one and you go through that process until you find one that works.
Right.
Without thinking about it and without having to learn it, just intuitive. Or you go, okay, app doesn't exist. Like like you've got to have a pretty strong problem to spend time enough to try and figure something out if it's not intuitive.
Definitely.
And that was something that we learnt, the hard way through Track My Subs about, guiding people through the process, leading them to their aha moments and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
The business world, that does not exist because business products aren't sold to the individual. They're sold to a company who's looking for a set of outcomes. And, they always talk about the, intuitiveness and good software design, all that sort of things. But the person pulling the trigger, the person making that decision is very rarely the same person who's on the end of it actually using it in the field or on the ground. So software developers don't care about that. They design, how do I tick the box so I can get this sale?
Right.
They're the people I need to sell to.
Yep.
And so this whole sort of user experience thing, even though it's bandied down around a bit, it's really doesn't have the same focus as the B2C world because in the B2C world, you're dead if you don't get it right.
Incentives are different. And in that case, how do you approach that? If you're coming from the user first, but you still need to sell to the organization.
Yeah, you've got to tick the box. You've got to tick both boxes.
Yeah, okay.
So, and that's one of the things that we use as our point of difference as well. So we're lucky in a sense that so many companies now have experienced bad rollouts and they've spent millions of dollars on software and they have 2-3 year programs and at the end of it, they kill it.
Nightmare.
The number of times we go into a presentation and I just ask that question, just about everyone says, oh yeah, we had this software that we did this and we spent all this money and we ended up killing it because we could never get it to work properly. And it's a common story. So we've got that as our point of difference to say, look, these are probably the reasons that you weren't successful. These are the things that we've done with our software to make sure it's successful.
What are some examples of that?
So it's that user experience, bringing it from the stuff that we learned in Track My Subs.
Yep.
Going, we don't have an instruction manual.
Yep.
Right? If the guys can't use it intuitively, how are you going to expect them to do it? I mean, they're just going to say, great, here's another piece of software that, that corporates push down on us that we have to use. If they can actually use it easily and it actually makes their job easier, it's not just, another thing that I have to do, then that change management's going to go a lot easier.
Nice.
We do have a piece of tech that we created by accident, if you will, that has made the biggest difference in our product.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Please explain.
So you mentioned before that we started off in scaffolding.
Yep.
So the main concept of EXTAG is we have a tag on a scaffold, for example.
Yep.
And the scaffolder will come up and they'll scan that tag with their phone.
So it's like a QR code or a NFC?
We use NFC.
Yep.
And so they'll scan it on their phone and then they'll do an inspection form on the phone. Pretty simple. Now, the way we did it was liked so much that we had our customers saying, this is great, we love it on scaffolding, but can you go put it on this piece of equipment?
Right.
And so our problem is, great, right? Revenue.
Yeah.
But from a software development perspective, how the hell do we do that? Right? And quickly. Oh, no problems. We'll be ready for you in 6 months once we've redesigned our app to go on another piece of software. Another piece of equipment that has got totally different forms, totally different ways of viewing it. Everything's different.
So it might be like a generator or something completely separate to the scaffolding system.
Yep. So they got different forms that define that piece of equipment, different activities. You're not servicing a scaffold, but you're servicing a generator. So how do we do that? And I remember I took the problem back to the team. It's actually in our office in the back of my shed where we started.
Oh, really?
And we had a nice big whiteboard.
Yep.
And I said, guys, we've got this problem. We're getting customers who like what we do, the concept of what we do, this scanning the tag, completing forms, and then the other things that we do as well. They love it and they want to put it somewhere else. The problem is we can't say yes to that quick enough for us to turn that dial and get another subscription. But if we could find a way to do that, then we're going to make more revenue for the company because I can just say yes.
Yep.
And we need to be able to do it in such a way that it doesn't require a developer's time because that's the hard piece.
Yeah.
So we need to set up a system that we can configure all these forms that we've got and how it's set up and how we interpret the data in a way that we can just configure it. It doesn't have to be a user interface. It can be just like a configuration file or such, but we can't be doing coding.
Yep.
And so that was sort of the challenge I put to them.
Wow.
And it took us 2 years.
Amazing.
But we built that.
Yep.
And, the first instance was great because now whenever a customer says to us, hey, we want to put it on this, we say, yep, no problem. But it turns out that's not the biggest thing that it's done for us. So the ability to change our app really fast and reconfigure it really fast has changed the entire way that we now roll out the software.
Okay.
So if you think about a normal software product in a corporation, you would have a huge project plan at the front, 6, 12 months, however long that is. Let's go and talk to all the stakeholders. Let's get everyone in a room. Let's work out all the forms we need. What are the outcomes? What are the reports? How's it going to operate? We do all this stuff up front. And then the software that we've chosen will then go and configure it all ready for that business. And then we have the rollout. And then we hope that it works. Because if you don't get it working, you can't go back and change it, or you get this list of stuff that, okay, here's our prioritization of changes.
Yep.
And then we go back to the developer and then they'll be charging more and off it goes. And this process extends out, 1, 2, 3 years.
This is the reason we hear about these projects that have $1 million wastage.
Yeah, exactly. So what we've found with ours is we can scrap all of that because it's not just a new configuration that we can change quickly. We can reconfigure quickly.
Yeah, nice.
So when we deploy now, we say, we just deploy what you currently got. Give us your current forms and your processes, and we set it up. And we can have it up and running within 2 to 6 weeks, depending on how long they give us.
Very cool.
We've got this internal joke that it takes us long to get a purchase order than it does to actually reconfigure the system and
It
get it
sounds
set up.
about right. Yeah.
Um,
So you've really built a platform as opposed to an on-rails process which you need to modify each time.
100%. And that cascades to a whole range of different things. So if I'm rolling out software to you as the person who's using it in this company, and I say, right, just give us the forms you're going to use. Are you using your daily job? When you first get the software, you're using it in a very similar manner to how you're currently doing it. So that change difference, I'm going, it's the same form, it's just digitized.
It's going from analog to digital.
And then people are extremely good at identifying improvements when they see something. Imagining what it needs to look like when it's digitized 12 months down the track, it's very, very difficult.
I was going to ask that, because the analog process is set up to be analog, and it's probably got baked in a whole lot of history and reasons that they do it certain ways, and people have probably forgotten, why are we ticking that box? But so you're saying through the very process of just digitizing that analog process, they start identifying opportunities to streamline.
Straight away.
Cool.
And one of the things that is so common in forms is, maybe the form is like 4 pages long, and the person who's used to filling it out puts a line through this section. I don't need this section. I don't need this section. I don't need that section. So our forms have all the built-in logic and stuff as well.
Nice.
So we can shrink that form down to one question that says, okay, what am I doing? I'm doing a 500-hour service or a 1,000-hour service. Depending on what I tick, the form will evolve to only give you the questions specific to what you're doing, and you can create the logic any way you like. So it ends up guiding them through that process without asking for anything they don't need.
Smart.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I was helping my wife fill out a form the other day because it was a PDF file and she didn't have like the pro Adobe software on her laptop. And the form asked her for her name and date of birth and address 3 times on the same form. And I'm just like, what?
Definitely a government form.
Yeah, correct. 100% it was a state government form. So bang on. How do you sell this to people? Because, even just having this conversation, it's a little bit nebulous, right?
It is.
And so how do you, A, find the right people to talk to, and B, explain to them that if they use what you guys do, their lives are going to be infinitely better? That's a challenge, right?
It is, yeah. And I would say, we're almost, in February it will be 6 years. And really the first 4.5 years, it's been very organic growth. Just through word of mouth, and the first 3 years, we didn't know what our product really was until we developed sort of this technology, and that's enabled us to really focus down. Okay, what's our point of difference between these other systems? It's really an education thing. So when we go and talk to a fresh person off the street who doesn't know anything about EXTAG, know they need asset management, they want to know the difference, right? Like, okay, why should we choose yours over someone else?
Yep.
And we have to sort of have this conversation where, have you had a problem rolling it out before? Yep. And what are the problems you face? Like, the guys in the field hate it. I just couldn't get them to use it.
Yep.
Right. And then to be able to go through the process, this is why they can't use it or they don't want to use it. You're not actually helping them. You're just getting them to spend all this time collecting data that never comes back to them, doesn't help them at all, and it disappears into the corporate, bowels and never seen again.
Yep.
Like, you need to focus on what these people are doing in the field and try to make their jobs easier. And that's the bit that's missing. And then we talk through, our technology and how it works, but around the engagement and how people they want to keep using it because they can actually make a difference. It is very challenging, and normally we need to sit down with someone for half an hour.
Yeah.
So the biggest challenge for us is, how do you get that message across in 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Very difficult.
There's not very many B2B sales processes which, don't take long, right? There's no such thing as a 3-minute B2B sales conversation. But I suppose if you get people talking about their problems and the pain points and demonstrating that you understand them at a deep level, that's probably as good an opener as you can get, right?
It is. And our demo, our presentation has evolved a lot over the years, where, if we understand what problem they're trying to solve, and normally they've come to us because I've got an issue with scaffolding, I've got an issue with vehicles, I've got an issue with this, and I've heard about you from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right. So I typically just go through the technology at a sort of a not specific level. So we talk about the tags.
Yep.
And then I talk about our form technology and the way that we can configure that. And then we talk about the visualizations that we do as well. And we go through each thing and we layer it up. And as we go through, their minds will start ticking over and go, oh, this is where I can use it. And this is where I can use it. And it always happens within first 20 minutes, half an hour of sort of explaining it. Our customer will tell us, oh, could we use it here?
Nice.
And then we'll dig into that conversation because it's the understanding of how it works that is more important than us saying, hey, it will solve this problem for you.
You're trying to find the hole to put the peg in, whereas allow them to do it for you. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Great.
And if you think about that from a sales perspective, our customers are actually helping solve their own problem, right? And if they're brought along for that journey, then it's their idea as well. They're the ones discovering how to do it themselves. It's not someone, hey, we're trying to sell you a solution. It's we're selling you a system that you can then use to solve your problems.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So you talked about the referrals and word of mouth. Great sign of a great product is that when people start telling others about it, right?
Yep.
What are some of the other things that you guys have done to promote EXTAG into a notoriously, I guess, conservative industry with mining and oil and gas and things? What else have you been doing to
so
get in front of people?
We've really sort of focused on that education piece and focusing it on that user experience and how do you engage the workforce.
Okay.
So not trying to sell EXTAG, but trying to sell or give away the insights that we've had. So we've been doing some sort of breakfasts, some industry breakfasts that we put on, and we present about some of the insights that we've found about how to get your users in the field engaged and what are the problems with that, and have a bit of a discussion around that.
Right.
We've been sort of going to a lot of sort of the industry expos. We're recently over the US with the big Army Expo with the Australian government, and that was good.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Over in Indo-Pac next week.
Yep.
And just getting involved in sort of more of the community areas and education perspective. So to sum it down, it means me going to places and talking for 5, 10, 20 minutes, half an hour
Yep.
on the bits that make us different and why these things happen.
Sharing your expertise, sharing some knowledge,
Yep.
demonstrating that you know what you're talking about, you can be
Yep.
trusted, and then the pitch can happen later. But if you try to pitch up front, that's always going to be more difficult.
And it's explaining to as many people as we can, these are why you're having these challenges.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a solution out there for this, but you need to realise that this actually is a problem first.
The community thing sounds like you might have learned something from a past business, from that track my subs
and
angle.
It's different to that though, whereas the community on Track My Subs was very much a personal community.
Yep.
It was a Facebook group where I was interacting specifically with each of the customers, and the customers loved the fact that they could talk directly to the founder of this software. When I asked those people, hey, can I have an interview with you to try and understand it? They were like blown, what? The founder of a company wants to talk to me? Yeah. And it's like, dude, I just work out of my garage. There's nothing fancy about me. Yeah. But you get a really personal interaction, whereas the business, it's not so much as building a community like that where people feel like they're part of that community. It's more of, I guess, getting us out there as we're an authority on this particular piece. And the product that we've built is based around this knowledge that we've discovered. And why we're getting such a good success rate is because of this knowledge. And
nice.
We want to position ourselves as the experts in solving this type of problem, so that when people talk to other people, oh, you got to go speak to EXTAG because they've got this dialed in. They know how to sort that out.
That's great.
Yeah.
And it's straight out of the playbook of what consultants would have done or or more service-focused businesses would do, whereas you're using that playbook but for software, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Very cool. So what's next for the future? You mentioned international, you're going to Indo-Pacific. What did you say? Indo-Pacific?
Indo-Pacific. It's a large defence expo over in Sydney with a naval focus.
Okay.
It's interesting. So at the end of last year, the because of this flexibility of our software, we were thinking, okay, well, we're in mining and oil and gas. That's our sweet spot. That's my background. That's my business partner's background. But our software has become agnostic. Like, we can configure a form and we can put tags on anything. It doesn't have to be mining and oil and gas. So we made the decision at the end of last year to go, well, let's see if we can go across verticals. Let's go and check out health and agriculture and defence and all these other sectors.
Love it.
And it was that time we started looking to bring someone on to, spearhead that. Yep. And we hired Lan Tran at the beginning of this year.
Famous Lan.
Famous Lan.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're very lucky in getting her.
Yeah.
After the crazy ninja saga of
well,
what happened and went down.
Episode 20-ish, I think we had the ninja guys on.
Yeah.
Just before they were about to make the big leap into the crypto gaming space.
Yes. Yep.
Which is fascinating, and I've got to get talking about coming full circle. I've got to get those guys back on if they'll do it.
Yep.
But yeah, no, well done. And the decision to bring on someone dedicated to BD, how do you make a call like that?
It's realising that I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because I'm trying to do everything, around the operations and bits and pieces. And I'll be honest, the last few years have been challenging from a developer perspective. Anyone who's had developers in the last few years has had the market challenges.
Definitely.
We're trying to keep developers.
Yep.
And not because of environments or anything else. It's just the market's gone crazy.
Sure.
That seems to have settled down a lot now.
Good.
And the focus has been able to be shifted, but it's that realisation that this is not my expertise. There's things that I know that I'm good at. If we want to push this to the next level, we need to hire someone who can just be 100% focused on that, and they can just bring all their skills to that and just drive it.
Yeah, brilliant.
And that's what Lan's done.
Yeah.
It's been a huge change this year, and just in a whole bunch of different strategies and things like that. And we're actually using LinkedIn now and things like that. Yeah.
Well, that's great to hear, mate. From the customers, from your client's experience point of view, what does that sales process feel like for them? So you've had that sort of education piece. They've seen that, there's some problems here which this technology is probably a really good fit to solve for us. What are the steps that happen after that?
Right. So we have our, a demo, and we get, okay, look, there's an area we could probably use this. One of the biggest challenges is our customers will go, I could use this in 10 different places. And so it's about, no, we've got to bring it back, because you're never going to be able to get this going in 10 different places.
You've got to start somewhere.
You've got to start somewhere. So we always advise our customers, let's just start with a trial.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just bring it down. We'll do a 3-month trial, and it's a paid trial.
Good.
People don't pay for stuff, they don't value it.
Yes.
So, free trials just don't work. And in that paid trial, we essentially set it up for them the way that they will use it going forward. And it's a risk on our behalf, because, there's a lot of outlay on our side.
Yeah, I'm sure the paid thing probably doesn't actually make much money. Yep.
No, it doesn't make anything. It's more of a token amount to say, hey, look, there's a commitment on your side.
Yep.
There's a purchase order. There's some logistics side of things that it gets us on the books.
Yeah,
right?
you're in the system. They've got your payment details.
Yep, exactly.
And with that industry, that's not an easy thing.
That's right. It takes time, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then our focus is on getting it up and running as fast as possible, working with them, with their teams over that 3 months. And we always talk about going, this is a two-way street. So this is you as our customer, it's your opportunity to work with us and see how we work. Not just from does the product work, but whether you like working with us and whether your teams can work with us and you're getting the outcome that you want. It's one thing me sitting on the other side of the table and saying, look, these are all these wonderful things.
Yep.
But in that 3 months, you should be looking at, do I want to work with these guys, and how does it look at? And I always put out there at the same time, and it's the same with us. We'll be looking at you. How does it work with you guys? Is this going to be valuable for us? And are you the right type of company that we want to work with?
That's great. So that's the dating process before the marriage.
Yep, 100%.
That's great.
Which is quite... I don't know how many of the majors get that, where they have a vendor come to them and say, we'll do a trial, but we're going to be watching you as much as you're watching us. Most people I just want to get you as a customer, right?
Yes.
And we'll do whatever it takes, no matter if I'm losing money or not.
It's so true. And I think the larger an organisation gets and the more disconnected the founders get from the sales teams and things like that, the more, sale at any cost becomes the priority.
Yep. And so I guess through that trial process, we have not had a single company not continue after a trial.
That's incredible.
And I think that's our strong point. So from a process, we know that we just got to get people into a trial. We got to de-risk it for them.
Yep.
And say, right, knowing that once they get going and the people in the field start using it, they're going to have a challenge to go backwards from what they're currently experiencing.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love the sales process is actually also the onboarding process.
Yep.
And actually the configuration process. Very
Yep.
cool. You've brought some little
Yes. Yep.
tags in to have a look at. So this is part of the technology of EXTAG.
Yeah, and this is a very simple part, but from a change management perspective, it's extremely important. So this is the NFC tags that we talked about earlier. And
Yep.
we often get, we've got all different types. So NFC, if anyone's not familiar with it, is basically credit card technology.
Near field
Communication. Yep. It's the same stuff you have on your phone for your PayWave or your credit card when you do tap.
Yep.
And we get questions from our customers all the time. Well, why don't you use QR codes? So a couple of reasons. QR codes can get defaced really easily.
Just a bit of a scratch.
Or
little part of the
texter or something like that. And they can be really easily copied. You can just take a photo with your phone and walk away.
Right.
So when we're dealing with equipment in the field and people having to do inspections, particularly around compliance, we take a record that the tag was scanned for every form that was filled out. So when we look at the data and we look at the inspection history on a piece of equipment, we can say that that person was at the location they should have been when they did that inspection.
Got it.
And that's really valuable from a compliance. We've got a story that I tell about one of our customers where we did some analysis of about 12,000 inspections, and they had about 26% of them that the tags weren't scanned.
Really?
So they were compliant. They had all their inspections up to date. They're thinking, great, we're great. So we had a look at it, and there was about 3,500 inspections that we said the tag wasn't scanned. And that's okay maybe if it's spread across all the equipment, but the scary thing was, what if there were entire pieces of equipment that were 100% in that area that weren't scanned? So you've got all the forms, but they've never ever been inspected. And we had a customer who had a big dust collector, a big filter for the dust that goes through to a generator.
Yep.
And it collapsed and sent stuff through and shut down the generator. And when they went back and looked at their compliance, they had all the inspections, but no one had actually been there because it was hot, dirty, dusty. So they just sat back in the office and said, yep, tick, 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 it's been inspected.
Wow.
And so by having this, they can easily identify these holes in compliance quite quickly.
And so but the phone's location plus the NFC tag has to align.
Well, it doesn't have to align from a
but you can
GPS position.
Yeah, okay.
Just the fact that this is a unique tag
Yes.
and it's on the piece of equipment.
Yep.
If that tag with this number was scanned and we know that's associated with that, then we know the person was there.
Yeah, got it.
So we don't even need to have the GPS, though we can do that as well.
Yeah, cool. Yep.
Yep.
And then what are the things with the cables? On the
These are just same sort of thing.
okay.
So
but you're not, if you don't stick it onto you
correct.
can put it around a pipe or something like that.
Yeah, you can put it on whatever you like. So the tags are really, so this comes down to change management as well. So this scaffold tag has got the same microchip and antenna array inside it.
Oh, cool.
So if anyone's familiar with scaffolding, this just looks like a standard scaff tag.
Okay.
Part of the process for a scaffold, when they build it, this is a certificate that has to be on it to give the details of it. And on the back, it says when it was last inspected. So if I'm going to access a scaffold, I need to check the certificate and make sure it's all good before I access that scaffold.
Got it.
Now, when it comes to change management, people don't like to do things differently.
They just want to do what they're used to.
Yep. So back when I was working as an IT manager for Bechtel, when we were building the Wheatstone project, we rolled out an RFID tracking system for 7,000 people on site. And we had this little sort of like a button RFID that we had quoted up.
Yep.
And we were going to give it to every employee. And rather than going through turnstiles at the site to go through them all, where I'd have to get off a bus and go through turnstiles, get back on the bus again, we just set up antenna arrays at the guardhouses to scan that button.
Yep.
When we presented that little thing to the unions, absolutely no way this is ever going to happen. You're not going to be tracking our workers. It's not going to happen.
Wow.
So everybody already had their ID card, right? That was okay.
Yep.
So we said, well, what if we make it in the shape of an ID card? So we did that and presented that back, and I said, yeah, that's fine because it's already part of the ID card.
Incredible.
No difference, but it's the perception and how it was received. So
there's a bit of psychology that goes into this stuff.
There is, yeah. It's about how do people operate.
Yeah.
And if you try to change things, there's that instant sort of, I don't want to do it, it's different.
Yep.
So when we put these in, it was just a change of tag. Everyone out there using it just did the same thing. Oh, they've got a different type of tag, whatever.
Yep.
Right? They keep filling
Looks
it out.
similar to what I'm used to.
Yeah, same things. I've got to fill it out.
Yep.
The inspectors would come along and scan the tag and go, oh, cool. Yep. Do my inspection. Off they go. Now, the scaffolders that were building this were still filling it out on paper and then going back and writing it in a ledger or putting it into a spreadsheet.
Mm-hmm.
They saw this and go, hang on a minute, you're scanning the tag and you're doing it electronically. Can we do that?
Nice.
And, well, actually, yes, you can.
Yeah,
we'll just set up the form for you and off you go.
So you're getting that in situ usage rubbing off on, like, that's almost like the product-led growth model on the site.
Yeah, and it's the people will do things when they see it easier. If you're using an app on your phone and someone sees you, what are you doing there? Oh, I've just ordered an Uber. Oh, that was easy. Can download the app. You do it. So it's when it's driven from a person wanting or seeing it that, oh, that's an easier way to do it, then the change just happens a lot easier rather than you're going to now do this.
Yeah.
They've seen it as being an easier way. And so we always look at, okay, well, how can we make different tags depending on the situation? That is that subtle difference. It just makes it easier. These particular tags are easy because they're flexible and they can move around. If you have this stuck on a piece of equipment that's a little bit hard to get your reader in,
then
I can't be bothered. But if this, you can pull it out and scan it.
Nice.
So just subtle things like that.
Yeah, that's great, man.
Yep.
You've obviously really thought deeply and have that real deep understanding of what the behaviour is on the ground. So important to building a good product that people are actually going to use. It's great.
Yeah, and I think it's just, it comes down to listening to them.
Yeah.
And in our world, it's not listening to the people who are necessarily buying your product. It's trying to get to the people out in the field who are using it and trying to understand their pain point.
Since we last talked on Weird Growth in 2019, what do you think has been the biggest lesson that's made you a better founder? You've since sold Track My Subs. You've scaled and evolved EXTAG. A lot's happened.
Yeah. I think personally it's more of a not getting too emotionally attached to things.
Okay.
It takes time. It's hard when you believe in something and you really kind of get it. But I think when you're too emotionally attached to it, you miss the opportunity. And there's so many times, I can see it in my story with Track My Subs. It took me so long to figure out that the problem I was solving was my wife's graphic design business. It wasn't everybody's subscription problem. And that took me so long to figure out.
Yeah.
Which in hindsight is just like, Gabe, you're an idiot.
Obvious.
It was right. It was there in the face. Your brain took it another pathway because you were so excited about it.
Yeah.
And I think not being so caught up in what it is that you do or what your product is or how it is that you just miss those opportunities. And I think what we did to solve our own problem with this whole configurability piece, that's such a lesson in going, okay, we're trying to solve this, but what does this expand to? Yeah. And it wasn't something we realized straight away. It actually took us, I'm going to say another year or two after that to go, oh, hang on a minute. The value here is not the fact that we're doing something incredibly different to other people. It's the fact that we can do this really quickly. But what does that mean to our customer? And not being fixated on, oh, this is just our product. And our product's completely changed from how we market it and how we sell it now, just from not being stuck in what you're... Not being too attached. Because I think if I'm just too attached to it, your brain just shuts off all those opportunities, I think.
Yeah, getting that ability to step back and look at it from the outside.
Yeah, and not being too precious.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah.
Would that be your one big piece of advice to founders looking to grow, or what else would you say to founders who are looking to grow?
Yeah, so most founders are product people.
Correct.
They have an idea, I want to make something, I want to solve this problem, I want to go and build this thing. The problem with those types of people, and I'm one of them, is that we think about the selling part later.
Yeah.
So the big difference between EXTAG and Track My Subs is that Track My Subs, I built a product hoping the world would come. EXTAG, we sold it before we had a product,
Brilliant.
which was scary as, and I'm not going to take credit for that. My business partner did that.
Yeah.
And go, Gabe, you're smart. You'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right? You know,
He's a sales guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he would hate to be called that.
Yeah. But that's his
But, you know,
skill set.
Yeah. And we had lots of challenges earlier on with our relationship because of how that was going. But, you know, one of the big things for me to come out of that is that if you can sell a product before you've got it, you're getting that validation first. And there's so many startups out there now which are still building new features, hoping that new feature is going to be, this is going to be the thing that's going to bring in all the customers. Or they're on their 5th product. This is going to be the product that's going to work. And they don't get out there and sell it.
Yep.
So anyone who starts, I mean, what we did is we had this very minimum viable product. I mean, it was rubbish. It literally scanned a tag and went boop.
Yep.
You know, we called it, it's the boop. Boop. And just imagine, you can look at some stuff on here, right?
Yeah.
And we sold it to a company who said, we will give you a purchase order if you can have this ready in 6 weeks.
Cool.
And I remember going back to my developers at the time and said, we need to build this in 6 weeks. And they said, it's impossible. And I said, well, we've got 2 choices. We can either say no and we've failed and we'll just close up the business. Don't worry about it. You know, we can just decide we're going to fail. Or we can give it a crack and see how close we can get. And you guys just shortcut everything. I don't care about the best code. I don't care about anything. Shortcut everything you possibly can so we can give them something in this time. And then we'll try and recover it from there. And that's been like the reason we've got success is because we've got a customer who's willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so much more valuable than having any product that no one wants to buy.
Great advice. All right, mate, we're getting to the end of the episode.
Cool.
One of the last things that we do on Weird Growth is a show and tell, bit different from your product, but what is the one tool, device, software, toy in your life which makes your life better and you couldn't live without at the moment?
Does it have to be a software or a tool?
Doesn't have to.
Like
It could
that?
be anything.
Can be anything.
The last guy said his skateboard, so, you know, whatever.
Cool. Well, there's 2 things that I do outside which keep me sane.
Yep.
One is I'm an ultra runner.
Are you? I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I run a very long way.
Mate.
That is such a...
It makes sense now. Look at you. You're fit as a fiddle.
Well, that's the other... It keeps me lean.
Yeah.
But, ultra running's great.
What defines ultra running? Is it a certain distance?
Yeah, anything longer than a marathon.
Wow, okay.
So
42 plus Ks
42
in a go.
plus Ks.
Holy moly.
Yep. And normally significantly longer than that.
Wow.
So
that sounds time consuming.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, I went out and run on the weekend as a training run, and I think I ran for about 6 hours.
Oh my goodness.
But from the parallels between ultra running and business are so huge for me in my head because it hurts so much. But you've got to persevere. So there's particularly the really long races, you know, the 100-mile races, where you go through the whole emotional roller coaster. There'll be times you think, I cannot do another step. I can't do this. My body's fallen apart. How can I possibly run another 80 kilometers, you know? To go through that and then mentally just one step at a time, keep progressing, and then to get to the end, the satisfaction you get is just incredible knowing that you can be in those places and still persevere and get through. And so from a business perspective, it's helped so much when there's times where I just go, I'm just so done with all this. I'm just so over it. But it goes, well, just stick with it. Keep your plan, keep stepping along, and this will turn into a better time, and you'll look back at this at some point and go, I'm glad I stuck through it because I wouldn't be here otherwise. So I think, you know, running is really, really good mentally for me, which is why I keep doing it.
Amazing. So business is like ultramarathon.
It's definitely an ultra marathon with its ups and downs for sure, yeah.
Did you say you had a second?
Yeah, the second one is I've got back into motorbike riding.
Oh, wow.
So just in the bush and sort of adventure riding, going on trips with a motorbike and camping and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
And that's one where, so when I run, I can think, and I think until I run out of things to think about, and then the body hurts too much that I can't think. Motorbike riding is one of those things where I'm too focused on staying alive.
Right.
That I can't think.
Yep.
So I'm just like
You're in the moment
I'm
all the
in
time.
the moment, so intense that there's just no room for anything else. And so when I finish going for a ride like that, it's like, the brain's actually switched off.
Yeah.
It's being forced to switch off.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, between those two things, it keeps me busy.
Those are probably two of the best answers we've had on Show and Tell ever. That's awesome. Thanks, Gabe.
Cool.
All right, mate. So, final plug. If anyone's interested in learning more about EXTAG and what you do, what should they do? What should they do?
Just go to our website, extag.com.au, drop in the contact or connect with me on LinkedIn, drop me a note.
Lan will be happy you said that.
Yeah,
Connect you on
absolutely.
LinkedIn. Yeah.
Yep. And, absolutely. Just, reach out to me personally. That's fine.
Brilliant.
And we'll have a chat.
Thanks, Gabe.
Yep.
Mate, awesome episode. Really appreciate you sharing your story and being so open and honest with all of that. It was just fascinating, and I'm sure people learned a great deal from that. And we could talk for hours, but we've got to wrap it up. So,
cool.
Gabe, thank you so much for being on Weird Growth for the second time.
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll do this again in another few years, and it'll be another completely, wild and interesting story again. But thank you so much for being on Weird Growth, Gabe.
All right. Thanks, Cam. Thanks very much for having me again.
Thank you. And thank you all out there for listening to Weird Growth. If you enjoyed this episode, please do subscribe on Apple Podcasts, on YouTube. If you're listening to this on a podcast, this is recorded as a video. You've got 2 camera angles. You can see how lean and fit Gabe looks. Or leave a review, and we'd really appreciate it if you can subscribe. But until next time, I'm Cam Sinclair. This has been Weird Growth. Bye-bye.